The storm that night wasn't just the kind that raged outside. It was the kind that tore through lives, stripping away everything you thought was secure. Thunder cracked across the sky like an old wound reopening, rain slashing against the windows of a small countryside home on the edge of town. Inside, a single father named Ethan sat on the worn couch, trying to coax his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, to sleep. The power had flickered out hours ago, leaving the house cloaked in soft candlelight and the comforting hum of a fireplace. He'd gotten used to storms, both the ones in the sky and the ones life had thrown his way since his wife passed 3 years ago. But nothing could have prepared him for the knock that came next, soft, frantic, and trembling against the door. Ethan hesitated for only a moment before pulling it open. Standing there, soaked to the bone and shivering, was a woman in a torn business suit and heels caked with mud. Her mascara had run down her cheeks, her hair clung to her face, and her expression, though she tried to hide it, was one of exhaustion and defeat. She looked like someone who had been running from more than just the storm. If you believe that acts of kindness can change lives, that second chances are sometimes the most beautiful gifts we can offer, then take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stories like this one remind us how one night, one choice can rewrite everything. Ethan didn't know who she was, and she didn't offer much explanation beyond saying her car had broken down on the empty road nearby. He gave her a towel, a blanket, and something warm to drink, insisting she sit by the fire while he fetched dry clothes. There was something about her silence, composed but fragile, that made him sense she wasn't used to accepting help. He didn't press for details. Sometimes people just need a place to breathe. When Lily peeked out from her room, curious about the stranger, the woman smiled gently and introduced herself as Claire. It was a name that carried quiet strength, but there was something else too, something guarded, like she was used to being known for everything except who she truly was. Lily, with the innocence only a child could have, offered Claire her favorite stuffed bear for comfort. Claire's eyes filled instantly, though she tried to blink away the tears. It was the first time Ethan saw the human beneath the polished exterior, the first crack in the wall she'd built around herself. The night stretched on with the storm refusing to calm. Ethan offered her the guest room, though she protested politely, saying she didn't want to intrude. But exhaustion won. As she slept, Ethan found himself wondering who she was, why she'd been on that lonely road at such an hour, and what kind of life she was running from. By morning, the storm had cleared, leaving behind a quiet world wrapped in dew and pale light. Claire emerged from the room wearing one of Ethan's old shirts and looking far less composed than the night before. The woman who had arrived like a storm now seemed lost in its aftermath. When she thanked him for his kindness, she didn't meet his eyes. She looked like someone who had spent too long being strong for everyone else and didn't quite know how to be vulnerable anymore. As the days went on, what began as a single night of refuge turned into something neither expected. Her car needed repairs, and the local mechanic said it would take time. Ethan didn't mind her staying. Lily adored her, and the laughter that had been missing from their home began to return in small, quiet ways. Claire helped with breakfast, told stories at night, and found peace in the simple rhythm of their small-town life. She watched Ethan repair broken things around the house, care for his daughter with gentle patience, and she began to wonder when she had last seen someone live so honestly. But Ethan could tell she wasn't just anyone. The way she carried herself, the quick flicker of anxiety when she got a call on her phone, the way she avoided mentioning her life beyond the walls of his home. It all told him she was someone used to control, power, and perfection. Yet here, she was simply human. And maybe, for the first time in years, she allowed herself to be. Days turned into weeks, and though the world outside returned to normal, Claire didn't. She'd wake before dawn, staring out the window with her coffee untouched. There was a heaviness about her, a storm of her own. One morning, when Ethan found her standing in the garden barefoot in the dew, he noticed her trembling hands and pale face. She confessed quietly that she was the CEO of a major firm in the city, and that the night of the storm had been her breaking point. The company she had built had begun slipping away from her because of greed and betrayal from people she once trusted. She had worked endlessly, chasing perfection until she had nothing left. No friends, no peace, no real life beyond boardrooms and broken promises. That night, after a heated meeting, she had simply driven away. She didn't know where she was going, only that she needed to run. Ethan listened quietly, the way people do when words are too fragile to touch. He didn't judge her or try to offer advice. He simply said that sometimes losing everything is how we remember what truly matters. It was a simple truth, spoken softly, but it struck something deep inside her. Claire began to find comfort in the simplicity of Ethan's world, the scent of fresh bread, Lily's laughter as they baked together, the creak of old wooden floors that felt alive with memories. For the first time in years, she wasn't leading meetings or drafting strategies. She was just being. And in that stillness, something within her began to heal. But healing is rarely quiet. The world she had left behind came looking for her. One afternoon, a black car pulled up outside Ethan's house. A man in a suit stepped out, demanding she return immediately, warning her that her company's future and her reputation depended on it. The confrontation left her shaken. She realized how fragile her peace had been, how quickly the world could snatch it away. Ethan didn't try to stop her when she said she had to go back. He just told her to remember the calm she found here, and that no matter what happened, she wasn't alone anymore. She left the next morning. Lily cried quietly as she hugged Claire goodbye, and Ethan stood at the door watching the car disappear down the long road. The house felt empty again, and though he tried to fill it with chores and routine, a quiet ache remained. Sometimes people come into your life not to stay forever, but to remind you what love and kindness feel like. Months passed. Winter turned to spring. Ethan kept busy with work and Lily's school projects, but every once in a while he'd catch himself looking at the road, wondering if the storm had brought her to him for a reason, or if it had simply been life's way of showing two broken souls that they weren't alone. Then, one day, a letter arrived. It wasn't fancy, just plain white, with his name written neatly in ink. Inside was a handwritten note from Claire. She wrote that she had rebuilt her company, but differently this time. She'd stepped down from her CEO position and created a foundation for single parents and families struggling to start over. She named it the Lily Foundation. She said she had found her strength again, but it wasn't the same kind of strength she once chased. It was the kind born of kindness, gratitude, and the quiet power of ordinary people who care. At the end of her letter, she wrote, "You taught me that sometimes the greatest shelters aren't made of walls, they're made of people who refuse to let others face the storm alone." Ethan folded the letter carefully and looked out the window where the first spring rain was beginning to fall. Lily ran into the room, holding a drawing of their family, him, her, and Claire, drawn in crayon. "She's coming back, Daddy," she said with childlike certainty. Ethan smiled faintly, not knowing if it was true, but for the first time in a long while, he felt that maybe, just maybe, life had one more surprise waiting. Weeks later, during another rainy afternoon, there was a familiar sound at the door, a soft, hesitant knock. When he opened it, she stood there again. Not in a business suit this time, but in a simple dress, her hair loose, her eyes calm. The storm outside was nothing compared to the calm between them. She smiled and said she'd come to stay for a while, if that was still okay, and just like that, what began as a night of shelter became the start of something new, a story of healing, love, and the quiet redemption that only kindness can bring. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that compassion and second chances can change lives, please like, share, and subscribe. Every little act of kindness makes the world a bit warmer, even when storms rage outside. Before you go, tell us in the comments, have you ever had someone's kindness change your life when you least expected it? We'd love to hear your story. Because sometimes shelter isn't just a roof, it's a heart that chooses to stay open. The end.